Hello, my name is Francis Fox, and I am a university graduate in political science, and I'm a trained government remote viewer. I'm a victim of a military mind control program that is still totally operational and giving this country a lot of grief. It should have been declassified. I understand that Clinton tried to declassify it decades ago, and that's when they brought in Monica Lewinsky and took him down. You really need to read my book on sex. We need to figure this out because sex is used as a weapon and it is going to take down the entire planet through a lack of reproduction of the populations of countries. If there's a lack of interest in sex, you're not going to have as many babies. You got to get it figured out. We have a common enemy that nobody is willing to acknowledge. We identify each other as the enemy when there's an invisible enemy that a lot of people know about, but they haven't shared or they don't understand the bigger implications. But what's going on in the other dimensions is much more significant, having to do with our happiness and where we're going to end up than what we suspect. And our belief systems is what's stopping us from understanding. So, my intention with everything that I do is to get people to widen their lens to include the other dimensions, which is where cause exists, which is where spirits live. And they, from that dimension, they can punch us out, and we end up feeling it and then accusing our brother in law, our sister, the neighbor, the boss for having done that when it was not them. Or they would not have done that if they had not been pushed into it by a spirit influence. But that's not what I'm here about today. It's the 26th of December. I hope you had a great holiday. I spent it by myself. I did see two members of my family. That was sweet. And then, of course, somebody who did not want me to see them did black magic before they got here. And then later on in the evening, again. So the bad guys are still totally operational, Trump. The black magic was not that big a deal, but it's really exhausting. It's really exhausting. So I want to remind you, getting back on the subject of sex, and I'm going to try, I'm Cuban, half Cuban, so we talk a lot. I'm going to try to keep this short. But I want to remind you that Cuba, several years ago, was declared the sexiest country on the planet. They barely don't have any electricity, they didn't have any internet, they didn't have cell phones, and yet they were the sexiest country on the planet. Guess what? They're not the sexiest country on the planet anymore because they got cell phones around 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and it changed their behavior. They're no longer as family oriented, they're no longer as friendly, they don't have as many friends, and they're no longer the sexiest planet because they got cell phones. It's not just the cell phone and the addiction to it, which is stimulated by spirits. It is the radiation from the cell phone, microwave, which evaporates water, and human beings are 80-90% water. So when you go, I wonder what happened to sex and reproduction, da 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 da, it might be sitting in your own pocket right next to your penis and your vagina, both of which need to be operational for us to not have population collapse. It doesn't really matter that YouTube is going to hear that I said those words because YouTube is sitting on me so badly that I'm surprised that my numbers are not in the minus department. Next, Southern Command. I was heavily attacked. Today's what, Thursday? I guess it would have been the weekend. And when I tracked, it was coming from the Southern Command Homestead, Florida. And it was coming from a small room. Probably the guy at the top in Homestead, Southern Command doesn't know this. I'm not sure that he doesn't know this, but they were operating very nicely. And I do believe that my handler, Renee De Villegas, who I know worked like this with the Southern Command. I'm not telling you he worked with the top guy. I don't know that. He worked with the people that were operations. So they were in a room that is completely filled with all sorts of electronics that has to do with mind control. So maybe Trump, you should look into that. And it's not a big room, and but the consequences of that are severe. And it needs to be taken care of, but not just for me, for a lot of other people. I did the map of the United States and I did the map of Venezuela. And I have to tell you that I have a grandchild who is angelic consciousness. And whenever I'm going to be allowed to have a decent, uninterfered with relationship with my family, I'm going to very proudly tell her, because she's the only angelic in our family, so she's got to feel a lot of times like an outsider. Um, I'm going to be very proud to tell her that Trump is angelic and the United States has taken the lead in the planet. An angelic, guided nation on planet Earth with so much violence. That's kind of weird, but it's wonderful. And then I'm going to tell her that Venezuela is angelic. And Venezuela, by the way, is just entering the golden age. That's what's on the map that I sketched. So I'm very proud to tell her that because she is angelic and it's not easy. And she went to a Catholic school. Not good. If they're going to break your belief in spirituality, it would be a Catholic school. You know that the Catholic schools are there. When they go to countries, they always set up, not, can I say always, I'm Cuban, we exaggerate. Many times in the big countries, the better schools for the kids through high school are Catholic schools. That's where you send your kid. Great. They're grooming the future leaders of that country. And the females, they groom them to be obedient. So they'll marry somebody who will end up running the country, and the Catholic Church and the Jesuits will have them somewhat under control. That early training is really difficult to erase. Really difficult. It's also difficult to wrap your head around the fact that the Catholic Church, via the Vatican, would have that kind of an agenda. I mean, that's just not possible. Yeah, it is possible. Anyway, next, let me show you the United States map. This is the good news. Look at that. Tremendous galactic protection, a spiraling counterclockwise, which means an anchoring of spirituality, all the spiritual stuff, and then the words lifted up. And then Mexico, which is off the map, but I sketched anyway, lifted up also. What does lifted up mean? Well, if you know anything about the Bible, there's a point at which God comes down and kind of lifts up some women, and the other ones that are left at the well, I believe, are kind of like left behind to not such great happenings. The separation of the, what is it, the wheat from the chaff, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Um, the separation of frequencies of the people that are not carrying such a heavy burden, who are honest, not liars. I mean, they can lie to everybody else, but as long as they're not lying to themselves, their frequency is going to be really good, even if they're bad people. If that's what they want to do and they really want to do it, it's not because they have an entity that do it. Solid. I remember when I was in therapy, when I started to have memories of being a mind control victim and having been a psychic spy, which I was not aware of. It's so humiliating and embarrassing to say that I had a secret life that the one that's talking to, was not in contact with. Wow. And I remember saying to my therapist, you know, the thing that makes people sick is when their insides don't match their outsides. And what I was saying was, if what you live matches what you are inside, you're okay. If it doesn't, you're sick. And too many of us have too much rages inside that need to be processed, which they can very easily with the purification mantra. Even though I hate, I love and accept myself. Even though I hate, I love and accept myself. And you need to be doing that, because there's something going on right now, which I announced about a week ago. And I said, okay, I'm going to say something that's a prophecy, which is always difficult because the future is elastic and plastic. Things can change, thank God. That's what prophecy is for, to tell you where you're going to end up if you don't get off that road, if you don't make some changes. What I said was that on the 24th of December, all hell's going to break loose. Talking the other dimensions. But I'm looking at the news and I think it's already happening on the physical. What is going to happen? What the Mayans said was going to be the worst part of the apocalypse. That people have fragments of their personality, such as I had as a mind control victim, but that was purposeful. Doesn't matter, it's still the same thing. They call them subpersonalities. The people, regular people, have that. And that those subpersonalities were going to come up, and that was going to be the big problem because the people themselves would not be able to handle their subpersonalities. I said it was going to happen on the 24th, which was 2 days ago. This is a little bit of an embarrassing story, but it's the only way I can. I expose a lot about myself, which I'm sure my family would want me to just shut up, but it's the only way I can explain it to you well. So something a little bit embarrassing happened to me Friday, from the 20, it would have been the 24th, in the middle of the night on the 24th. And I woke up and I could see the fantasies that a man that I had dated a couple of times, but I was not interested, um, and I haven't seen for a while. And in his head, he was visualizing himself sexually abusing me, but I mean, like, this was like for a long time. He must have been on drugs or something. I did not know that he was the type of person that would use drugs, but he was sexually abusing me throughout a long space of time. And it's so contrary to his personality, who he is in public. He's a public person. A lot of people know him. He's really wonderful. But apparently there's an aspect of him that's sexual. That's where the usual break is, that has been so severely repressed that it became very toxic. And according to the Mayans, at this point, starting the 24th, he would not have been able to hold that down. You know, when the people murder and they say, the devil made me do this, or they say, I didn't do this, this is kind of like an example. This did not happen in the physical. This was at night. But too many times I know what people are thinking, even during the day. And it's not easy. Like one time I was in an elevator and I look very American in Miami. And I was going up and there were a couple of people in the elevator. I don't know what they were talking about. They didn't think I knew Spanish. And they were kind of saying something to the effect that I thought maybe I was better than them because my skin was so white, whatever. And I remember standing there and going, okay, do I say something or just wait and get out of this elevator? I could hear, they weren't talking about it. Actually, they were thinking it. Um, anyway, it happens a lot. My family doesn't like it. Neither do people that I know, but there's nothing I can do. And I try not to say it. Back to the story of the middle of the night on the 24th. That aspect of that person is a subpersonality that he has been totally tightly reined in by this person. And it got loose on the 24th in the head. How much does it take for it to get loose physically? Not going to find out because I have no reason to ever see that person again, in my opinion. But that is what's happening across the planet. So, people, you will notice starting on the 24th, but it may take several weeks, it could take several months because they can fight. If a person is a good person, as this man was, and this ugliness starts to come up because therapy in this country is no good and nobody deals with this our darkness, our inner child, our dark side. You're going to see people doing stuff to where you go, where on earth did that come from? It was buried inside the person. In other words, our enemies are not going to be the people that we think are our enemies. It's going to be ourselves, our loved ones, good people, nice people that were never told they had a dark side and were never given the tools to clear it. That's the first rule in my movement. We have to clear our crap. We have to clear our stuff. And it comes from something bad that happened to us, but you can't blame that person who did whatever. It's your reaction. So, what the Mayans said that I've been talking about for a couple of years is happening. And if you look at the news and you see all sorts of people that supposedly are nice people doing these god awful things, such as killing their wife and their kid, and we've had that happen for a while, you're going to see it massively. You're going to see people just flip, turn. And it was because we don't know anything about consciousness. We don't know how to take care of ourselves. And the people that found out, which was the US military and other militaries across the planet and other cults, are not sharing that with the general public. All you have to do is every time you have a really ugly thought come up, all you have to do is go, like, let's say Trump. Somebody does something god awful. They turn on you, whatever. All you have to do is in your head, you don't say it out loud. You expel the breath through your mouth. Even though I hate her, I love and accept myself. Even though I hate her, I love and accept myself. And you're drawing up your legitimate reaction, but you're not letting it stay inside to where it multiplies and becomes toxic and separates from you because the hatred becomes so big that you're ashamed of it. So it separates the fragment, the subpersonalities, the mantra, the Mayans were talking about. So, all of you, if there is something, if you're in a marriage and you're not happy with your sex life, but you really love your wife and your kids and whatever, and you're always mentally looking and lusting about women and one in particular, go ahead and do a mantra about that. Even though I want to have sex with her, I love and accept myself. Or even though I want to rape her, I want to accept myself, love and accept myself. Do the mantra. Even though I steal money, I love and accept myself. Even though I hate my mother, I love and accept myself. Whatever it is that's really dark in you and that you really don't want. See, if you wanted it, it wouldn't be a subpersonality. You wouldn't split. It would just stay with you. You don't like that about yourself. So you repress it and you split it off. Those are the subpersonalities, and those are the ones that are coming up. Why? There's no longer any veils within us, within dimensions. There's no veils anymore. It's gone. Everything is going to be out there. And people don't know what to do with what is called their dark side. You don't need to speak to anybody. All you have to do is when something comes up, or if you know you have a part of you, like if you watch porn and you like violent porn, that means you really want to hurt a female or the opposite of sex or whatever. Do the mantra. Even though I want to hurt her, I love and accept myself. Just do the mantra. And for that part to come up. And at that point, you may start to get memories of what it is that happened to you that would make you want to do something like that. Because if you're repressing it, is because you know you shouldn't be thinking that, doing that, whatever. So I'm going to drop that now, but I'm going to stand on my prediction that on the 24th, a veil lifted, and people are going to be struggling with fragments of themselves, and that's going to be much more important than when we're struggling with whatever issues we struggle with politically or otherwise. That internal battle that the Mayans predicted is what is going to be front and center, but nobody's going to know what's happening because we don't know enough about ourselves. The Mayans were the only civilizations that were able to ascend gracefully without trauma and without those scenes that we see in the apocalypse. We should have paid attention to them. Next, let's go with the Venezuela map, and then you can go back to your holiday. Um, Here we go. Venezuela looks just as good as the United States, except the United States said lift it up, and there we go to the Bible verse again. And in Venezuela's case, it says golden age. So Venezuela is going into the golden age, which is really, really great. Okay. So I'm Francis Fox. I am multidimensional. I have a podcast, Francis Fox News from Other Dimensions. It's on Spotify and Apple. And I need to get out of here. So Trump, if you can pick up all these Miami people, this would like be really great. It would great. This is a little bit. It's been a year and a half, and my Tesla is working fine. Thank you. What I did with my Tesla though is I left the charger in for too long and it got bad, so I had to order a new one. But other than that, when I get to drive from one parking space to the other, because that's the limit of my driving, it's fine. And I need to get that big contract, whichever one it is, because I will have many. Because I promised all my grandkids that when I got my first big contract, I would buy them all a Tesla. And I'm kind of thinking about that a lot. Like the Tesla store in Miami has too many Cuban males that the Cuban mafia has controlled my car through. So when that happens, Elon, we're going to have to deal with that because I would like to go with my grandkids to choose their cars. Okay. Love you a lot, guys. And I hope you did have a good holiday. And forgiveness, understanding that this is a planet of light and dark. Got to explain that to your people, and you got to accept it in yourself. Okay.